I need you to brace yourself, because I'm about to ruin how special you feel. Right now, sitting wherever you are, in whatever you slept in, you are descended from kings. Actual, crown-wearing, throne-sitting royalty. Not my grandma said we might be related to someone important. Royalty. Mathematically certain, scientifically confirmed royalty. And not just you, the person next to you, your worst enemy, that guy who cut you off in traffic this morning. Every last one of you is the direct descendant of emperors. There's just one tiny problem with being royalty. If everyone is royalty, then nobody is. And the story of how that happened is one of the strangest, most humbling things math has ever proven about the human race. Let's start with a number you already know but have never really thought about. You have two parents, they had two parents each, that's 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 after that. The number doubles every single generation as you walk backwards in time, and doubling gets out of hand fast. Go back just 10 generations, a few hundred years, and you've already got over 1,000 direct ancestors. Go back 20, and it's 1,000,000. Keep going all the way back to around the year 800 to a Frankish king named Charlemagne, about 40 generations. And the math says you should have over 1 trillion ancestors. 1 trillion. Direct grandparents, every one of them required to produce you. And here's where it falls apart, beautifully. 1 trillion is more than the number of humans who have ever existed, not who were alive back then. Who have ever existed across the entire history of the species, all of them combined. So either you personally have more ancestors than there have ever been people, which is impossible, or something is very, very wrong with that family tree. And something is, the mistake is the word tree, because your family tree is not a tree. A tree branches outward forever, splitting again and again, never touching itself. But your ancestors weren't a tidy spreading tree. They were a population, a limited pool of people, in limited places, marrying whoever happened to live nearby. Which means the same people show up on your family tree over and over again. Your great-great-grandfather might also be your great-great-great-grandfather down a different line. Go back far enough and everyone is marrying their distant cousin, because everyone is everyone's distant cousin. Scientists call this pedigree collapse, which is a very polite, very scientific way of saying your family tree isn't a tree at all. It's a wreath. And the second you accept that, that impossible trillion shrinks back down to a real, finite group. The same handful of ancestors recycled again and again, all funneling back to a shockingly small pool of people. So how small? In 1999, a Yale statistician named Joseph Chang sat down and did the math on this properly. And his answer was staggering. Go back about 1,000 years and you hit a strange tipping point. A moment where everyone alive who left any descendants at all becomes an ancestor of everyone alive today. No overlap, no exceptions. Around the year 1000, 20% of Europeans left no living descendants. Their lines simply ended. But the other 80%, every single one of them is a direct ancestor of every European on Earth right now. Which brings us straight back to Charlemagne. He was the most powerful man in Europe, and by the records we have, he had at least 18 children. The man was, let's just say, extremely committed to the project of continuing his bloodline. There is no chance someone that powerful and that prolific ended up in the unlucky 20%. He's in the 80. Which means that if you have any European ancestry at all, Charlemagne isn't a grandfather of yours. He's the grandfather of more or less everyone. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Now, you might reasonably assume this is just a slick math trick, a fun thing to say at parties that isn't actually true. So in 2013, 2 geneticists, Peter Ralph and Graham Coop, went and checked it against the one witness that never lies, DNA. They compared the genetics of over 2,000 Europeans, and the result matched the math exactly. The DNA could only be explained one way. Everyone who lived in Europe 1,000 years ago and left descendants is an ancestor of every European living today. The numbers weren't a trick. We really are all clutching the same fistful of ancestors. The waitress, the king, the guy in traffic, one enormous, tangled, faintly inbred family. But, And here's where I have to be honest with you, because the internet usually isn't being descended from Charlemagne, and being able to prove it are two completely different sports. The math guarantees the descent. It does not hand you a certificate. And some genealogists get genuinely irritated by this whole everyone's secretly royalty thing, and they've got a point. For most of history, royalty and nobility were a sealed club, a genealogical island where aristocrats almost only married other aristocrats. That royal blood only trickled down to the rest of us slowly, over centuries, through daughters quietly marrying one rung down the social ladder, generation after generation. So yes, the blood reached you. The paper trail, though, that vanished lifetimes ago in some unmarked grave. You are absolutely descended from an emperor. You will absolutely never prove it to anyone at dinner, which is honestly the most royal experience available to a modern human, being important and having no one believe you. And if you think Charlemagne is the impressive part, I have genuinely unsettling news. He's not the finish line. He's barely the warm-up, because the same math doesn't stop at one king. Run it on the entire human race instead of just Europe, and you find that everyone alive on Earth today shares a common ancestor only a few thousand years back. So you're not just descended from Charlemagne, you're descended from Nefertiti, from the pharaohs. If you've got Asian ancestry, you almost certainly carry Genghis Khan, a man so spectacularly prolific that an estimated 16 million men walking around today are his direct descendants. Every emperor, every queen, every god king who ever sat on a throne and decided they were chosen, special, set above the rest of us. They're your grandparents, all of them, standing right behind you, in a family photo that somehow includes literally everyone who has ever lived. And that's the quiet, beautiful joke buried under all of it. The entire purpose of royalty was to be separate. Blue blood, sacred bloodlines, the divine right to rule, the whole point was that some people were fundamentally better, born above the herd. Kings spent fortunes and started wars to keep their bloodline pure, to prove they were a different kind of human altogether. And the math, cold and patient, looked at every last one of them and shrugged. Because there was never a separate royal bloodline. There was only ever one bloodline. Kings and peasants and everyone in between braided together so tightly that today you couldn't pull a single person out of it if you tried. The crowns were real. The thrones were real. The idea that the people sitting on them were a special breed. That was the only fiction in the whole story. We're not all descended from royalty because we're special. We're descended from royalty because, in the end, royalty was just us. So go ahead, sit up a little straighter. You come from a long, unbroken line of emperors. So does the guy who cut you off in traffic this morning. Try to be nice to him. He's family.